and I'm back like I never left. Where have you been? Because I've been here. Do you understand what I'm saying? um, so the last time we spoke, I was explaining about the aftermath, kind of the aftermath of where I was in regards to Sunshine and that relationship and that whole thing. And then I met the Marine, and we dated for a little bit. Then it was just like, oh no, it's not really working. And so I was single again, right? Now there were a few things that started to happen. Um, like I said, I was gaining weight at a rapid pace for seemingly no reason, and I didn't know what was going on or what to do. So I just started looking. Um, because of the speed at which I was gaining weight, and things were like I was gaining weight, and my mood and my it was just plummeting into the ground. And I said I started falling into a depression. Well, it started off as I'm falling into a depression to where like a full on thing. And of course it was again during 2020. So, I couldn't work out. I couldn't just do things that I normally would do. So it was more difficult for that reason, just being like, I can't really do anything. Um, and 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 it got really bad. To be perfectly honest, to be candid, I think this is important, but it got really, really bad to the point where at one point I was, how do I say, can I say this on camera? Put it on YouTube? I was having some suicidal ideation. I'll say that, which and it's and I think everybody has dark thoughts at some point in their life, and things get really difficult, and it's not something that I'm not totally unfamiliar with. It's usually I've usually great times of great stress or whatever, but um, the few times in my life that something like that has come up, where I've been low, low enough to feel something like that, it's been, kind of short-lived, right? Or soon as out of a stressful situation, like when I was in Korea, and then it's like, okay, I'm good. It was very stressful. People around me make life stressful. I'm not doing the work to be stronger than the situation, because at that time I didn't really have that knowledge. I'm just kind of these things I've figured out on my own, as I've grown and evolved. But this is the first time that I've felt that twinge of discomfort, and I actually was genuinely concerned. Um, and it was to the point where I had to tell my brother that I was feeling that way, because again, it was the first time that I was actually genuinely concerned, and I needed somebody to know, just to check up on me. I mean, luckily we lived in the same house, because we bought that house, and so it's easy to just peek in every now and again. But it was the first time that I actually felt genuinely concerned about that, and it's just like, I need you to know, and I don't want to be a stress. I don't want to be a burden, because he had other things going on and whatever. It's just, but I needed someone to know, because it was weighing so heavily on my heart, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I didn't know what to do. It had gotten to the point, at a certain point, I was, like I said, I was gaining weight and stuff, and it continued. I just kept on gaining, and I'd been so good with like diet and being vegetarian and fasting and working out and all these things, and I couldn't work out the way I wanted to anymore, because the gyms were closed down, like I mentioned before. But I had been so good with that stuff for so long, even in the midst of like a full-on depression, I was still able to just keep because it was habitual at this point, right? I just something that I did. It just became like who I was. So even though I didn't. Basically, what I'm saying is I didn't fall back on food as a comfort. I didn't just start like, oh, let me just eat whatever now because I'm depressed. It was because there's always that thing in my mind, like I'm trying to get back to where I was. Like I just want to be where I was before, and I didn't want to just fall off the wagon, as it were, and add on to the fact that things are already going awry, and like basically I control the thing that I can control, and I can control what I eat, right? So the worst during this whole time, I think the worst thing that I ate was French fries. Yeah, I go to the place and get French fries. Like that was the worst thing that I did. But anyway, but during this time, like the depression got so bad, I was like using cannabis on a regular basis. I mean, not like a whole lot, just like, for me, because I'm such a lightweight with that kind of stuff, like a couple puffs and but it was just because my insomnia was so bad, chronic insomnia was so bad. So when I had that, it's very easy to fall asleep. So I would do that because I'm just like, because normally I'm up at this time especially, easily every day, at least awake until 6 a.m. And there would be times where I would just lay in bed for 5-6 hours just trying to go to sleep. So that helped me fall asleep with like no effort. So it was very easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to use this stuff to, fall asleep. But it was also incredibly, I was lonely. I was lonely and yearning. And, let's just say at this time I wasn't practicing semen retention, which is a good practice, but it got unhealthy because I was essentially giving my energy away and it wasn't being reciprocated. And I felt like my life force was just leaving me. So I mean, it was a combination of things, right? Because like I said before, there was my adrenals crapping out. There was the fact that my sleep is just terrible. When I would finally fall asleep, I'd sleep forever. Then I'd wake up and I'd still be exhausted. Then I'm super depressed and dealing with like this suicidal ideation. And there was just so many things. And I was just like, I just didn't know what to do. And, that's pretty much what that year was for me. Just, I don't know what to do and it sucks, right? So it had got to a point, so I was like, okay, well, I got to figure out something. And, before this thing really gets bad, really gets out of hand, and I got a reading. So I get a reading from this woman I know, Danielle, and for a while she would do all my readings, but I got one of the first ones, or the first one that I got, because this whole thing with my heart and sunshine and it was so prevalent on my mind that I just needed like, hey, what should I do about this? Because what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing isn't healthy. I kind of, not that I can't control it, but I need to know like if doing something else is going to even make a difference, because there's a lot of times where I felt like I start feeling powerless, like nothing I do has any bearing on the end result. Like that's what it felt like, you know what I mean? It just, when we're talking about health and diet and maintaining weight, I'm just like, there's certain things from a physical standpoint that you do that should yield a certain result. Like that's science, right? But that's just from a physical standpoint. So I'm like, I'm doing all these things, I'm not getting the results. So I need somebody else to kind of tell me, give me something, right? And I got this reading, and it was basically like walk away. Like this whole situation, I'm giving it so much energy, and it's literally killing me. And I don't say that in a figurative sense, like killing me slowly. And it, you know, and what I mentioned earlier, like could have been permanently too if I kept on that route, because I was lost. I was at a loss. And so when that happened, I had to get on. It was good because it helped embolden me, you know, to make a very difficult decision, because I would look on like Facebook. I haven't been on Facebook at this point in a couple of years, a few years at this point. But I would see Sunshine on Facebook, I see her on Instagram, and I had to like unfollow her on stuff, and so I didn't see her picture pop up, because it was heart-wrenching to see her picture pop up. Like just another piece of me just got killed off every time, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Like I can't do this. It's actually painful to me. So I had to, and the strange thing about that is I didn't want her to think that I like hated her or something, or that I'm being malicious, you know. It's just like, and during my reading, she was just like, you don't have to tell her why you're deleting her. It's not, and it's one of those things with me in boundaries, right? That I had learning boundaries, and just learning like, I don't owe you or anybody an explanation. If I give it to you, it's because I choose to share it, not because I owe it. And there was this thing about not telling her that I'm doing it, because that's, you know, that was kind of the beginning of me holding in my energy and keeping it instead of giving it away. Very valuable lesson, and that will play a part later on in the story, probably in future videos. But so I was just like, okay, so I'm gonna just like delete her off stuff, so I can stop seeing her, delete the pictures that I have, and so I can stop seeing her, so I can stop tearing myself apart. And that was one of those things, you know, because there were a few things that I started doing. It was the tarot, it was the sound healing, it was the past life regression thing, and then something else that Danielle mentioned. Now, I believe this was the second reading that I got. So I started doing what she had said, what the cards were saying, right? I mean, those, again, and this is one of those things, this is the reason why I like tarot, you know, and divination and that sort of thing, because I was at a loss. I didn't know what to do, and there was a very clear message there for me. And I listened, and it was at that point that things started to, you know, turn around for me, because what I say is I put down the shovel, you know. It's just like, if you're digging yourself a hole, right? You're digging yourself a hole. What's the first thing you do to stop digging your hole deeper? You put down the shovel. So I put down the shovel, and, you know, and then I assessed, you know, I was able to assess where I was, how deep I was, and how I can start getting myself out. So during another reading that I got from her, she had mentioned something about her being a nighttime eater, and how that's better for her digestion. And when she eats during the daytime, or eats in a very brightly lit room or whatever, how sleepy she gets, you know, how difficult it is on her. And I was just like, that's so interesting. Like, what is that? And she's talking about human design. And so I was just like, okay, well, I want to get one of those readings, because, you know, there's stuff going on with me and I don't understand it, right? And this is one of those things. This is the other thing that I started doing to figure out what was going on during this time. Tarot, human design, the sound healing, and then the past life regression. Those are like the things that I started doing. So I was just like, okay, well, give me the information. I'm going to get a reading, you know, a full reading, and and I'm gonna do this thing, right? Like I want to know about this because it's what you said is really intriguing, and I gotta see. I have to explore it. So I call Pele. I'm just like, Pele, I need a human design reading. I need the full thing, the full deal, right? Tell me what's good, what's going on. I need to know about this because there's certain things. Now again, during this time, I'm gaining weight, so I'm gaining weight for reasons I don't understand. I'm experiencing all these things. I don't know why. So, with the human design system, it explains so much with, with who you be, right? So I'm just like, look, let me get an appointment, and I set my appointment for as soon as possible. And probably it was like a week later or something, and we did our session, and it was really cool, very informative. And one of the things that I learned about was that what I had been feeling with going through that stuff and even the melancholy that I was feeling was that a lot of it is my design. A lot of it is mechanical. Just, there's just certain things, like there's these ebbs and flows with my energy, and just, obviously they can ebb higher and lower, but some of these things are just who I am at a certain level, right? Which was just like, okay. Now at the time I didn't really understand it. It's one of those things where you gotta like study it and just reread it and kind of experience life and then make the connections and like, oh, okay. I think they have courses to get like certified to do readings and stuff, but for me, I was just like, okay, I'll just do self-study for now. Like that's something I can do right now and just to get the ball rolling, right? So there's certain things that are it's just who I am. And so that was helpful because I'm like, okay. And it doesn't need an explanation as to why. It's just part of the process, part of the, the alchemical process. So I was like, okay, cool. Now there's so much. I mean, obviously I'm not gonna go through like the whole reading because it was like a 4-hour thing. Too much to explain and too much to, but some of the important bits I was finding out that I was a sun eater, that I digest food better, more efficiently during the daytime and in direct sunlight. Now, the thing is that I was doing that I didn't realize at the time was I spent most of my time eating at night because I was up for so long. I will always end up eating at night, or just, growing up, we ate dinner at nighttime. It was always like 7 p.m. when we ate. So I've literally been eating like that my entire life, not realizing how detrimental it is for me, or just how much stress it adds to my system, my digestive system when I'm eating. And I was just like, okay. And it's a process to decondition, right? And to start living your design in a way that's better, that suits you, that is going to make things flow. But I got like this UV lamp or whatever to kind of, imitate sunlight to help the transition. So I'm not eating in darkness like I normally would, and just like wondering why I felt so bloated, so bloated. And that's the thing the bloat. I'm gonna talk about that later and just how bad it gets. But yeah, like that's a whole thing. So I remember I went, and one of these days I got some French fries and I just tested it after that reading. So I sat in my car. Now it was nighttime and it was very dark outside, and I took one fry and I took a bite of it, and I started to feel like full. Like not full because I ate too, like, I'm satisfied, but just, just uncomfortably, weirdly full. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like that thing is, because I had to test, when I learned this, like I had to test it. And I had noticed that, it it's a thing, because even before, I would notice I would eat during the daytime and I wouldn't feel super bloated. But I didn't make the connection. I didn't think there was a connection. I didn't think that the time of day had any bearing on how I was digesting food. Like, nobody would naturally think of that. It's just kind of like, well, just paying attention to your body, actually being sensitive to your body, and then also drowning out the noise of everybody telling you that, oh, this is normal, or you should be able to eat this and not feel that, and whatever. But obviously, as children, we're very influenced by our parents and society and this and that. So, we tend to grow up thinking from the lens of that indoctrination. So anyway, I was just like, oh, okay, it makes a difference. Now, it helped when I went in the house and I ate with my little UV lamp on. That helps. Now, obviously, it's no substitute for the actual sun, but during that the transition to get to a point where I can avoid eating at night, where I don't feel that pull to eat at night, because I'm just like, okay, I've made it habitual to eat during the day or whatever. And that was helpful. That was helpful, and to get to that point, like the whole reading was helpful, just to start doing things differently, start looking at things differently, and not be like, oh man, why doesn't this, what's going on with me, blah blah blah. Like, to start getting some answers on things, right? Because it's when you're doing stuff and you don't have knowledge, you're kind of just feeling around in the dark. You don't know, you're just hoping and reacting instead of acting. So the human design was very cool and very informative, and it's become one of those things that I'm over a lifetime, I'm sure I'll like master it or something, but it's one of my favorite things to talk about. So the next thing I started doing was the sound healing. And this was interesting. I saw it. I can't remember where I saw it. Was I on YouTube one day? I don't know. But I saw it, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna hit up this lady, and I'm gonna see about, what she's talking about, because human design gave me something to look at, but it was so complex, and so there's so much to it. It's just like, okay, this is gonna be something that I integrate over years. It's not gonna be immediate. So, so I kept digging, right? Not digging a hole, but just digging deeper in something. So I hit up this lady, and she's telling me about what she does and this and that. And so we set up a time for my appointment. And I just remember at one point, she's like, okay, I'm gonna ask you to make a sound, and I'm sure you're gonna ask me a question, and then make a sound that I feel correlates as an answer. And I was just like, what? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. So she asked me, and I made this weird sound. It was very strange. But here's the interesting part. I got the printout, right? She sent me the email. She did her thing, got the printout. And I'm looking at the stuff, and it's correlating with what I'm feeling in my body. And this is why I think it's so fascinating, because there's so many different ways that people heal, right? Or do divination, or whatever category it falls under. But there's so many different ways, and it's just like, it's cool to see, like, okay, I'm up, yep, I'm experiencing that, yep, I'm experiencing that, and there was something about the sound that my body makes that gave this print off and told her, what was going on. So I was amazed about that, because I just, you feel kind of silly doing it, right? You feel a little, I feel a little silly. Luckily, it was just one-on-one, so nobody had to hear that. Nobody had to hear that weird, flat, sharp sound I was making, you know. But it correlated with what I was experiencing. So, and she gave me this, the CDs, and they're basically like meditations, and you're repeating the sound, you're following along with it, and you're using your voice to help, to help facilitate the energy flow, right? And it was cool. It wasn't as overtly helpful as I wanted it to be, but I think it kind of helped lay the groundwork for a success later on. A success later on. Just one of those things to help me through the journey, because my energy had got so low, so stagnant, so heavy, that it's just like one thing was never going to be enough. And I can say that pretty, like I feel pretty strongly that, yeah, one thing I needed a few things, and not just because of what I had been experiencing, that last year, but I think even from childhood, even from past life stuff, and I'm about to, I'm going to get to that. But so it's just like there wasn't. It's not just one thing that would be my saving grace, but a culmination of different things that will help rebuild your foundation, that will then uplift you, right? So that was very fascinating. So I would do the meditations. I can't remember how long. It was months. I would go outside for a walk, and I would do the listen to the thing, and I would do the sound thing, and I mean, again, I was at this. There was so much going on at this time, and I don't think it was, like I said, an overtly effective thing, but just helped lay the groundwork for, during that time. Because one of Danielle's readings, she told me, so, oh yeah, the answers that you're looking for, I think it was one of the full moons. Was it Gemini, Scorpio? And I was just like, okay, the answers are. So, and that turned out to be, during this particular full moon, this time, it turned out to be sometime in November of that year. So I got the reading in like April, May, but it was November. So I had that in my mind for months. So I'm going to cut the video right here. I hope you enjoyed it. Come back next time for the next part. And remember that there is no outro.